I need you to rank these movies one last time. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. Today, I've got my ranking of all 8 Mission Impossible movies, including the newly released Final Reckoning. In my opinion, Mission Impossible is the greatest pure action movie franchise of all time, and it's not particularly close. I think these are special movies, so it's going to be extremely difficult to rank them from 8 to 1, but I have my list ready to go, and there might be some hot takes in here. Not quite sure. There are some clear spot placements, and then the middle of this ranking is where it gets real difficult. But go ahead and let me know your ranking of the Mission Impossible movies down below. Where does the Final Reckoning place? And be sure to watch my review of that movie linked up above. Of course, hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified for all my future videos. Without further ado, let's accept the mission and rank these movies one last time. So coming in dead last for me, to no one's surprise, is going to be Mission Impossible 2. This is the consensus worst movie in the franchise. 95% of people you ask, if not 99% of people, are going to have this at the bottom of their ranking. It's directed by John Woo, and because of that, he brings his distinct styles. There's a lot of slow-mo action, over-the-top dramatic sequences, making for a movie that tonally feels the most disconnected from the entire franchise. I won't lie, there are moments that I enjoy, especially like the final fight between Sean Ambrose, the villain, played by Dougray Scott, and Tom Cruise, where Ethan kicks the sand, picks up a gun, and shoots him. Like, that is cheese to the max, but I kind of embrace it. You also have the whole lab break-in sequence in the middle of the movie. Slow-mo galore, absolutely, but I kind of eat it up. And I'm even sort of a fan of the hard rock rendition of the main Mission Impossible theme. It's badass. Look, this is the worst Mission Impossible movie, but it's still a watchable action film. It's about a 5 out of 10 for me. I would take this over a lot of the modern day garbage that goes like straight to streaming when it comes to the action movie genre. But this one is held back by the dull chimera virus plotline, along with a painfully forced romance at the center of it all. There are still sequences that make the movie watchable, thankfully. Like I said, the chimera lab scene and also the motorcycle chase. But overall, it is undeniably the worst of the franchise. And if you don't have it in dead last, are you a Mission Impossible fan? I'm kidding. You can have your own opinion, but I haven't seen people have this higher than 7 in their ranking. From here on out, the rest of the movies are 4 out of 5s or higher to me. So 8 out of 10 is what we're talking about for the next movie, and it's second to last in the franchise. And my next movie at number 7 is the OG Mission Impossible. This movie is still a blast. It's directed by Brian De Palma, and it's a pure spy thriller. There's lots of great dialogue in that first act. The movie's filled with some clever switcheroos and fake outs that will constantly keep you on your toes. And I think we forget how star-studded the cast is, at least in the first act, when you've got a lot more John Voight, Emilio Estevez is in here, and we get to see like a classic Mission Impossible undercover mission play out in the first act. Every movie that would follow kind of follows the template of the first act of this movie in some way, shape, or form. Then we get into the middle act. We have the whole Langley scene with William Donloe and the knock list where they, break in and steal that. Riveting stuff. It's like the first OG stunt of all the Mission Impossible movies, and it gets you tensed up and sweating, which the films will definitely do as we talk about them later on. But upon rewatch this past time, I was just shocked at how lightning fast this movie moved. Like, it gets after it. It's one of those movies where the third act isn't as strong as the first two, and I feel that way about another Mission Impossible film as well. Some of the VFX in the third act are like straight up 90s cheese and a little shoddy, but they surprisingly still hold up better than some of the VFX work done today, which blows my mind. I gotta pay respect to this though. It's the first Mission Impossible film. Who knew back in 1996 that this movie would launch this massive franchise that went on for nearly 30 years, and it might not even be done yet. We could get more movies one day, but I gotta shout out Tom Cruise and Dutch Angles. The scene with him and Kittredge in the restaurant near the end of Act 1. Oh, it's great stuff. At number 6 on my list is going to be Mission Impossible 3. J.J. Abrams directs, and it has my favorite cold open, arguably, of the entire series. If he's got Philip Seymour Hoffman's Owen Davian going toe-to-toe with Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt. It's the first time we've really seen these two actors go toe-to-toe in scenes in a movie before. They've starred in movies prior to. Magnolia is the one I'm referencing, but this is the first time we see them like on the big screen going toe-to-toe with each other, and they both brought their A game here. It might be the best acted of all the Mission Impossible films. There are high-intensity moments, and Owen Davian, to many, is the franchise's best villain. He might just be. Philip Seymour Hoffman kicks it into another gear. He's got multiple moments and quotable lines where I'm like, this guy is just evil. You don't think I'll do it? 9! When he's just counting down at the opening of the movie with a gun at Michelle Monaghan. Or so we thought. Obviously, it's not hers. We'd come to find out. But this movie, much like the first film, keeps you on your toes with some clever spy moments. There's a lot of trickery at play, so it's a movie that requires the audience's utmost attention. There's also still some cheese in here.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall.
One of the greatest lines in the franchise. But what Mission Impossible 3 essentially is a spy MacGuffin thriller where they're going after the rabbit's foot. The film has this like 2000s oversaturation look to it, almost like a Saw movie. And it's just a highly watchable, entertaining spy action thriller with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tom Cruise giving some of the best performances in the whole entire franchise. This is a movie that was much needed. It was a course correct after Mission Impossible 2, and it really is what started the Mission Impossible going to the next level train. At number 5 on my list, I've got Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, but you can just drop the Part 1 because they actually removed that. It's forever ingrained in the film itself, but it's technically just called Dead Reckoning. This is the 7th movie, and it is a Part 1 very clearly. This movie is long. It's about 2 hours and 43 minutes, but it doesn't feel like that. I don't think any of the Mission Impossible movies overextend their stay. With this one specifically, you've got like a 45-minute last act that has the motorcycle base jump with Tom Cruise then parachuting onto the train. You've got the bridge blowing up and the whole train sequence that follows. There's like a 30-minute car chase in the middle of the movie, and then you open with like the airport sequence. This movie moves. There's a major action set piece in every single act, so the pacing is on point. It also is the film that introduces the Entity, one of the most controversial decisions in the entire Mission Impossible franchise, because with this movie, it's the first time the franchise sort of takes a step back from a reality that the audience could buy into and actually challenges the audience to accept this new idea of an AI villain that can feel a little superhero villain at times, right? It's not something we're accustomed to seeing in the Mission Impossible films. Typically, the main threat, the main villain, you can buy in and have a sense of believability, like, oh yeah, this could happen in the real world. Well, with the Entity, at least at the time of this movie's release, it was kind of a stretch. However, in 2025 now, with the advancements of AI, this is not all that far-fetched, which is why I think it held up better on rewatch a couple years after release. Now, because this movie's introducing this whole new villain that's a game changer for the franchise, there are moments where you can feel a little bogged down. Not necessarily confused, but like, wait, what is the Entity capable of? Who the hell is Gabriel? It's introducing a lot. The movie does sort itself out by the end with the whole Carrie Elway scene on the train. But for a while there can be some confusion at play for sure. I feel similarly about Final Reckoning and Dead Reckoning in a sense that because the Entity is this kind of villain we've never seen in the franchise, it requires a lot of explanation for the audience and is not the most enthralling thing at times, but it is necessary to probably lay a lot of that groundwork. So you gotta get through some scenes, at least in this movie, where they're introducing concepts, and it can be more jarring than in Final Reckoning, because in Final Reckoning, we already know what we're getting into. But for a nearly 3-hour movie, this entry flies by. The whole final act is riveting, and I'll never forget seeing the motorcycle jump on the big screen. I do have an issue with this movie. They killed Elsa Faust. They took Rebecca Ferguson from us. I'll always be mad about that. I think it was unnecessary, but it is what it is. That's life. At number 4 on my list, I've got the newly released Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. That's right. I have this over Dead Reckoning. They're both like a part 1, part 2 type deal, but I give the edge to The Final Reckoning because I think the highs of that movie are higher than anything we get in Dead Reckoning. Both movies contain a lot of explanation scenes about the Entity and its powers and the fate of humanity being on the line, but I think that overall I prefer the highs of Final Reckoning compared to Dead Reckoning. I also like that it brings conclusion to the story, whereas part 1's a lot of setup. This is a lot more of the payoff and conclusion to that story. But speaking about Final Reckoning as a whole, it features 2 of the best practical stunt sequences I've ever seen. Now, I know there's a lot of CGI at play as well, but Tom Cruise and co are so, hands-on with everything and try to make it as practical as possible that you can't even really notice some of the hidden CGI. The biplane sequence at the end of the film might just be the best stunt in the whole franchise. I mean, I was holding my breath, my hands were sweating, and I was just in awe of what Tom Cruise was pulling off there. But it's enhanced because the stakes are the highest they've been in the entire franchise. At this point, the fate of the world's on the line. Nuclear warfare could occur. The Entity is like so close to just having unlimited power everywhere, to quote Palpatine. So Ethan Hunt trying to save the world. It's thrilling. You've also got the submarine sequence, like an hour and a half into the movie, where I was, same thing, holding my breath, my heart rate was increasing, I was like gripping my chair. For like an hour and a half straight, this movie had me locked in. Even the first hour, which I know is the one that's receiving all the complaints and, critiques online, I was still locked in. We lose some characters, or a character, I should say. I'm trying not to spoil things, but there's sure a lot of talking, exposition-y scenes that people are critiquing, but that's every Mission Impossible movie. Like, Dead Reckoning, I would argue, has more exposition dumps than Final Reckoning because it's laying the groundwork for the entity. This movie is a direct continuation of that. So this is a unique case. Every other Mission Impossible movie is introducing a new threat, new villain, new mission. This one, it's a villain returning. It's a continuation of a plot line set up in the first part, Dead Reckoning. And so I wasn't bothered by that. I don't think it's choppy or a mess. I've seen a lot of people say that, and to each their own. I don't feel that way. I think it's establishing, hey, the stakes are the highest they've ever been in this franchise. We're talking about the fate of the world being on the line. So you've got a scene with the president and the US government. Ethan has this moment with the entity and he sees like the future in a way, right? So there are a lot of important scenes in that first hour. And then we get the submarine and the biplane. Like the movie flies by. I've seen it twice. Round 2 is in IMAX. Definitely worth the price of admission to go see this bad boy in IMAX for the submarine scene and the biplane sequence alone. But it was riveting stuff. To me, it was a highly satisfying conclusion. Is it the best Mission Impossible movie? No, it didn't need to be. Is it the best movie ever made? No, it didn't need to be. Mission Impossible is the most consistently great action franchise out there. So going and expecting this to be the outright best, setting yourself up for disappointment, in my opinion. It's still a top 5 entry in the franchise, but there are a couple others that I prefer. This movie rocks. It's my favorite movie of 2025 so far, and I might even go see it a third time in theaters. At number 3 on my list has to be Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. This is the first Mission Impossible movie I saw in theaters, so I do have a bit of a soft spot for it, but this is really when the franchise took everything to a next level, specifically the practical stunts. The Burj Khalifa sequence in the middle of this film when Tom Cruise is climbing the outside of the building, that is just cinema, okay? There's no other way to say it. The first act of this movie features the whole Kremlin break-in with the explosion. Then you quickly move into the second act where this stunt happens. And the third act, which is still really intense stuff, you're trying to stop a nuke, huge stakes, right? But it's actually the weakest act of the 3, in my opinion. That's the one thing holding Ghost Protocol back for me, like maybe the best. Like the first 2 acts are so great. The third act's solid, but because you're on this high from Act 1 and Act 2, like the third act just is the least memorable, shockingly to me. But this is where Tom Cruise full sends on being a madman. Just can't get over that Burj Khalifa scene. It carries a lot of weight to me. Also, Jeremy Renner's Brant is introduced in this film, so that's a nice new character addition. You got more Benji here. The movie has lots of quips, maybe some of the best jokes in the whole franchise. Like there's lots of humor here that's memorable. And there are just a lot of action sequences and exchanges between characters that are some of my favorite of the franchise. I think Ghost Protocol is really where this franchise found its footing, and it gave the franchise tons of momentum to deliver us the 2 best movies, which I'm going to talk about now. My runner-up is going to be Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. This is the 5th movie, and let me just say, out of all the Mission Impossible movies, this is the one in particular that gets better and better each time you go back and rewatch it. The first time I saw this movie in theaters, I liked it quite a bit, but as I've rewatched it over the past 10 years, it just gets better and better and better because you pick up on more things. This is a movie that requires a lot of your attention because there's so much in the details. From character motivations to twists and turns in the plot or huge reveals that will really shock you. This is a clever Mission Impossible film. It's also the first directed by Christopher McQuarrie, or as Tom Cruise calls him, McQ. I mean, hell, the movie opens with Tom Cruise hanging on the side of a plane as it takes off. And that's real. That's madness. The action sequences are spectacular here. You've got a insane car chase slash motorcycle chase in the middle act of the film. Tom Cruise holds his breath underwater in this like heist type scene. The final act involves Ethan and company outsmarting Solomon Lane. I always love when characters have to outsmart instead of out physical. The whole sequence at the opera is insane with the music blended with the high stakes intensity of it all. Like this movie moves. You've got the Syndicate introduced, Ilsa Faust brought in, Rebecca Ferguson. Like this movie introduces characters in terms of villains and heroes that take the franchise to another level. The action is out of this world, and it's just a top tier Mission Impossible film that gets better and better. It ages like fine wine every time I think about it or rewatch it. The movie just gets better. Christopher McQuarrie comes in and immediately kind of cements himself as the Mission Impossible director. He would then go on to make The #1 movie on this list, the best Mission Impossible film, Mission Impossible Fallout. Christopher McQuarrie is back to direct this, and let me just say, this is one of the greatest action movies I've ever seen. It is the only 5 out of 5 rating I give to any Mission Impossible movie. It is special. Every act of this movie features a riveting new action sequence or stunt that just has your jaw on the floor. The opening features such clever writing and misdirection that you already feel like you're in for something special. Henry Cavill is in the picture as August Walker, or dare I say John Lark. So you have this whole bathroom showdown sequence. Vanessa Kirby's White Widow's at her best here. Ilsa Faust at her best here. Tom Cruise is running maybe the most he runs in any movie here. And there's just so many moments where I'm like, hell yes. This movie rules. This is why I love movies. The score is chilling. There's certain aspect ratio changes that give me the goosies. Like, I get chills just thinking about them. And the whole helicopter showdown at the end with John Lark versus Ethan is, whew, pulse pounding stuff. I'm getting hyped thinking about it. And for a split second at the end of this movie, they make you think Ethan and company have lost. It keeps you on edge till the very end, making for a high-stakes movie that flies by, features some of the most memorable action sequences in the entire series, has some of the best character work at play for Ethan Hunt and company. It is a spectacular movie, and to me, not only the best Mission Impossible film, but like I said, in contention for arguably greatest action film ever made. But that does it for my ranking of all 8 Mission Impossible movies. Let me know yours in the comments down below, and hit that like button, subscribe to that notification bell so you can be notified for all my future videos, and stay tuned for more content coming very soon. But until next time, I'll see you guys later. This ranking will self-destruct in 5 seconds.